Hi, so I'm here to explain some common calculator issues that students have come across. Um, so within GoBoard, this program for tutoring, under more tools, there is a calculator that is available and also a graphing calculator that is available. Um, so I'm just going to go over some of the tips that I have. So under the regular scientific calculator, you have a lot of these tabs that you can come across to access different functions within the calculator. There's sine, cosine, tangent, and then here's your inverse of those, which could also be arc sine, arc cosine, and arc tangent. When you click on them, you can then add your whatever you need to add, whatever you need to calculate out. You're also able to switch between radian and degree here, so it's kind of important to understand what you're being asked, whether you need it to be in radian or degree. Here's your ln functions, here's your log, your e to the x, and you can add whatever numbers you need up there. Yeah, it expresses everything in scientific notation too, as you can see here. Here's an absolute value. And also you can also get absolute value here as well. These two lines like this indicate an absolute value. So if I did absolute value of -2 is 2, or I could also come to the function and do absolute value of -2, which is also 2. So then you could, if you had, if I wanted to do 3 squared and figure out what that was, you can insert 3 and then click this squared symbol right there, and you could figure out the solution. If it wasn't a simple square, if you had to do, say, 5 to the 6th power, you could enter 5 and enter this a to the b, and you could actually manually put in 5 to the 6 or 5 to the 9, whatever you needed to calculate. Here's your pi symbol. For a simple square root, you add the square root, and then you could add in any number that you needed to take the square root of. If it's not a square root, say you needed to take a cubed root, you could do this where you were actually able to manually put in if I needed to take a cubed root, you could put in that 3 and then come down here and say, what's the cube root of 8? You could figure out that that's 2. Some other problems that some students come across is determining in their calculator how to put this in their calculator. So parentheses are a big issue, but what I've come across, or what I've noticed, is that anytime you're doing any function, whether that's multiplication, division, subtraction, every function other than addition, you need to add parentheses. And what I mean by that is putting this into the calculator, we're not able to just put in 5 parentheses 1 plus 5 parentheses. I think that was a -6. Oops, my bad. -6, and then just say divide by the 2. You see our issue here is we don't have this entire numerator, the 5 times 1 plus 5 minus 6. We don't have that all over 2, which is what we need in the original problem. So one thing I think of is, since this whole numerator, the 5 times 1 plus 5 minus 6, since that's all being divided by something, we need to add parentheses. So you start out by doing parentheses. You add your 5, and then you also need to add the parentheses for 1 plus 5. 1 plus 5. And then you can add your -6, and then end your parentheses, and then you can divide by 2. And you see how that's puts it perfectly in the numerator up there. Another cool function, especially in this calculator in GoBoard, is that you could also just click this A over B function, and that'll automatically put that in there, so you don't have to worry about those pesky parentheses. So yeah, you're able to just put it in there by just clicking that button. Another cool thing about this calculator is if you need a percentage, say one of your problems says what's 6% of 98, you can do, you click the 6 and then you do percent, and it automatically says percent of, and then you can add your 98, and then it'll give you a number in decimal place, but also in GoBoard, you're able to convert this to a fraction. If you needed it in a fraction for some form or that is easier for you, you convert it back and forth between the two, which is pretty interesting. Under the graphing calculator, this is just, it would be just as if you were trying to graph something on a regular calculator. Say you had, 5x squared plus 7x minus 3. You could see what that graph would look like, and you can zoom in or out, and that becomes really helpful if you're trying to find like x interpoints, and it actually tells you where it crosses the x-axis, and also tells you where it crosses the y-axis, and the minimum point as well. So that's also very helpful. And then also just a couple more quick tips on a regular calculator. If you don't have a graphing calculator or you can't use it, you always can use those parentheses that you learned. But within these graphing calculators, there's actually a function that not a lot of people know about. If you click this alpha button right here, this green one, and you click that button and then this one right here. I know it might be backwards, but you come up to a screen that the first one says N over D. And what that means is numerator over denominator. And if you click enter, that'll bring you to this perfect setup for a fraction. And that way you don't need to add all of those parentheses in there. You could just plug your answers right in here, and it will look exactly like how it did in the actual calculator that I showed earlier. That would be like the A over B function. So I wouldn't have to use any parentheses for that. But yeah, thank you for watching. Those are just some of my quick tips for calculator use. Thanks.